Welcome to Shaped by Faith. I'm Theresa Rowe. We shape our bodies and hearts for God's purposes. My guest today is Amanda Burke. She's been attending my morning fitness classes for several years, and today Amanda's going to share her story of how she combined her faith with her fitness to make her healthier and holier and grow closer to Christ. Amanda, thanks so much for coming on Shaped by Faith.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I know, Amanda, when you and I were talking about the show and what you wanted to bring up, that you really wanted to address the moms out there and the caregivers and those who are taking care of other people and maybe they've neglected their own bodies,
Yes.
in some way, shape, or form. So we're also going to talk about that today, so please bring that up in our conversation, whatever you want to say. But I want you to tell us about your family, how many children you have, about your husband, whatever you want to say.
Sure. I am married to a local fella. He's from Davis County, and we have 3 kiddos. The youngest is from Haiti. We adopted him internationally about 10 years ago. So I'm at that interesting threshold where my kids, I started young, so they are all, they're graduating and getting older, and I've got one younger one still left, but that's kind of my circumstance right now. I'm a homemaker, so I stay home with them and homeschool and
You do a lot. I mean, that's a lot. To homeschool, for one,
yes,
is a job in itself.
Yes.
And a huge responsibility. So when did you decide to homeschool your children?
We decided a really long time ago. It feels long ago because my oldest, he'll be 20. And we started with him. And it was just a delight. It was something that was intimidating at first, but I really, really enjoyed it. And so it just kind of helped me keep going when I saw that he learned to read, and I did that for him or with him. And then my second came along, and we just kept trucking. And with my youngest, we have experimented with all of the things. So we've done homeschool, we've done public school, and he's back at home right now. But yeah. So.
I've heard from a lot of moms that homeschool, what you just said, that at first it was intimidating. And once they got into it, it was so amazing for them. It's a pleasurable experience for them.
Sure.
So I want you guys and gals out there listening to know that homeschool is a huge option. And if you wanted to talk to Amanda, you could talk to her. You can find her in my fitness classes.
Yeah, I'm there.
Now, with the adoption, how did that come about, and why adoption?
We wanted to add another child to our family. And for various reasons, we could not do that biologically. So our eyes just immediately went to adoption. And international adoption was a big jump for me because, I barely leave Kentucky, but we ended up going to Haiti, and it was traumatic, the whole experience, because our kiddo was one of the first to come home after the earthquake 10 years ago. So it was a long process, and then it was a traumatic end and introduction to our family. But we are so thankful. And we've had so much support through the years from our church and our friends and family.
How old was he when you adopted him?
He was 2.5 when he finally came home.
Wow. And when did you start it? How old was he?
We got his picture when he was 9 months old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So he is fitting in beautifully now?
Oh, yes. He's a character, and he is a energetic bundle of energy, but we would not be the same without him.
All right. In 2019, you showed up in my morning fitness classes. Now, you've been going to my classes, right?
Over the past 10 years.
I know.
Off and on. Mm-hmm.
You have been in my classes, but 2019, there was a difference, and I could see in your facial expressions even that there was a difference. There was like a determination with you, right?
Yes.
So you were determined to do whatever it took to get spiritually and physically fit. So what are some of the circumstances or some life events that led up to that decision?
Well, I think right here at the close of a decade, everyone's talking about that, the past 10 years, doing the photos, looking back, 2009 to 2019. And for me, the past 10 years were relatively stressful. So from the introduction for my youngest to be here from Haiti, and just when life would seemingly calm down, something else would pop up. And so I had a lot of things popping up, whether it was relationally or family-oriented or just outside stressors.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, you have your normal stress, and then you have these extra things on top. So as the decade just came to a close, I was at 2019, and I was a hot mess. Emotionally and physically, it began to show on my physical body that I had maybe not handled the past few years very well. And I knew that something needed to change. So I think determination was a good word. I was determined to make a change, even if it meant hard things for me.
Now, even though you had been exercising, obviously maybe the way you were eating was affecting the weight gain, right?
Right.
Because you can exercise and still gain weight.
Oh, yes. But see, I used that as an excuse. You can't really eat just because you exercise.
Correct.
And that's how I was looking at it before. And I thought I was doing okay.
Mm-hmm.
But when I had that reality check and really started to examine that part of my life, I realized, no, I need to rein it in quite a bit, actually.
You had also talked to me about a picture that you saw of yourself.
Yes. Yeah. My friend, my very dear friend, in June, her son graduated high school, and we went to his party, and she posted photos on social media.
Lovely.
I know, it's great. And with social media, we all tend to filter those things. And this was not filtered. This was unfiltered.
Hey, can I show this picture?
Well,
she loved you just the way you are.
Oh, she loved,
yeah.
Yes. We are very dear friends.
She didn't think about it.
She wasn't really thinking about it. And it was more of a group shot. So I actually had to zoom in for a second because I was like, who is that? Wait, that's me. And, it was a defining moment because I remember just sitting on my couch and crying and thinking, I cannot believe that's me. But by God's grace, he didn't let me stay there. Like, okay, I had my tears, but now it's time to really do something about it. And I can't explain that beyond the Lord because we are women. Women tinker with diets and weights and self-image almost their whole life. I feel like that's just a whole life process for a woman to come to a point of just embracing who you are. And so it's been a long journey for me, but it was the Lord that said, okay, here you go. This is what you've got to work with now, and you have the ability to work with it. So that very night, I started my journey.
And so it was a mindset and a heart change.
Yes.
For you.
Right.
And with the Lord's help, it made it very possible for you to do this.
Yes. And, I think as caregivers, we can sometimes just pour out and pour out and pour out into others. But we forget that God's design is we need to fill our tanks first before and then when we're empty, how can we serve others unless we are taking care of ourselves mentally, spiritually, and physically?
That's right. We've got to have enough energy and endurance to help others. Sort of like if you're on an airplane and the oxygen mask comes down, you put yours on first.
Exactly.
And then you help the person next to you.
Right.
All right. We're going to continue your story. I can't wait for the listeners to hear some changes that you put in place. So everyone stay tuned for more Shaped by Faith coming up next. Welcome back to Shaped by Faith, where we shape our bodies and hearts for God's purposes. Well, my guest is Amanda Burke. Amanda, how much weight have you lost?
I lost 50 at my last check.
You lost 50 pounds. That's a large amount of weight. For one, you're tall.
Right.
You carry yourself very well. So 50 pounds is a lot of weight to lose. I mean, and basically you started really pressing in the month of June of 2019.
June 2nd. Yes.
So from June to December 2019, you lost 50 pounds.
Right.
And that's incredible.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely. And I got to watch it.
Yeah, you did.
I got to see that transformation. Okay, we're going to have you discuss some of the healthy boundaries you began putting into place for yourself and maybe for others, because there has to be those healthy boundaries there.
Right, right. Well, I wanted to share too. The first thing is spiritually. I just want to say pursue God. Pursue Him privately on your own. Have your quiet time. That's something that I became more committed to, meeting with Him. But also pursue Him publicly. Find a place of worship. Have you been hurt by the church? We've all been hurt. We are all sinners. We all need grace. Don't stop gathering with the believers because we're all broken. So you're going to grow and you're going to evolve and you're going to learn how to love people better. Mm-hmm. God will help you do that. But I'm still a work in process for me. And
we all are, Amanda.
Yes, yes. So Hebrews 10:25 says, "Don't neglect to meet together, as is the habit of some, but encourage one another." And so spiritually, I need to meet with God daily. Read your Bible daily. Find a fun devotional that you like. For me, it's first thing in the morning. I have my coffee and I have my reading and my quiet time. But I guard that pretty heavily.
So your family knows.
Yes,
that's
my
your
family
quiet
knows.
Time.
I can also even be sinfully grumpy about it. But I'm like, please do not get out of bed until I am ready for you to get out of bed. But yes, so that's my time that I spend. And it just helps me regulate and get ready for my day.
And I think, like you said, first thing in the morning, it's so good because it does jumpstart your day.
It does. And for everybody, it's different. And, I know some people right before bedtime is their routine, or in the middle of the day, or nap time, but just some point in time where you can meet with God. And then also just find a body of believers where you can just plug in and connect. And I'll be the first to say that part is harder for me. Like, I'm more hesitant, but the Lord's still working on me. And so I love my church, and I'm just blessed to be surrounded by really godly people.
And that is so important, Amanda. And like you said, there's no perfect church. I mean, we're the people that make up the church. There's no perfect person. Right. So that forgiveness is a big deal.
Yes.
When it comes to relationships. And we're going to run into relationships wherever we go.
Absolutely. Yes. So, and the next thing I would say, and this is harder because it's not something we talk a whole lot about in Christian circles, but I love Jesus and I need therapy.
That should be on a T-shirt.
It is,
in fact,
actually.
I've probably seen it.
Yes, it actually is. But, sometimes we find ourselves in complicated situations. And in the past year or 10 years for me, just looking at my responses and my feelings and my anxiety, I needed help. And I needed to get to the point where it was okay for me to need help. I needed to discuss these things with a professional, and they in turn helped me see my thought patterns, help me to make healthier boundaries and choices. And when you talk to a professional, they can help you see your unhealthy patterns and new ways to look at situations. So through therapy, I've learned to evaluate my thought patterns, gauge my responses, and maintain healthier boundaries. So God made the mind, and it's affected by the sin and fall of the world. And if I need help, I should thank God for the science and psychology that is from Him. Every good gift is from Him.
You're right.
So I'm thankful for the therapy that helped me to really reevaluate how I saw things and how I interpreted things, how I responded to things. And that was very needed in my life.
It's really a rewiring of the brain.
Yes.
Because, if you look at different patterns, if they were doing an image of the brain, if someone, they have a very consistent, their healthy relationships, the brain pattern is going to look different from someone over here, let's say that's in addiction and their pattern's totally different than someone over here who's high anxiety.
Right.
So God can help us rewire our brain.
He can bring healing to your brain.
He can. And there's a scripture out of Romans 12:1-2 that talks about, don't be conformed to the patterns of the world, but be renewed and transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Right.
So He can help us with that.
Yes. Yes.
That's good. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, it's important. And it was just so helpful. So helpful. And, even to this day, I have techniques that I can use if I need to just stop before I get too emotional and go journal and, think about what's the root cause of this. And so that was a big change in my life. So, and then physically, which we'll talk about, but physically, it's a lot of change.
All right, let's talk about physically. What are some steps that you took, Amanda, to help your physical body?
Well, we talked about how I realized that I was probably overeating. So what I did when I saw that picture that day, the infamous picture, June 2nd, I just decided, okay, I need to know what I'm eating. And I'd heard you need to journal that. So the easiest thing for me to do was to financially commit to something so I would stick with it, So I paid for Weight Watchers, which they typically run a deal like your first 3 months. I do not go to meetings. I only have the app on my phone.
Wow.
So that's just really what I needed, though. I needed to, okay, if I'm going to put this in my mouth, I have to log it. So the first week was a real learning curve because, I thought, okay, I'm going to eat this cereal bar. It's healthy, right?
Not so bad.
No, it's not. It's bad.
Yeah. Bad. Put it down.
So just learning, what's a healthier choice. And one of the great things with the program is fruit, vegetables, lean, chicken breast, turkey, fish. All of those are free. I don't ever have to log those. So that really changed how I ate because if I was just hungry, I could go to my fruit bowl, and grab something healthier. And the other stuff adds up pretty quickly.
But if you wanted the other stuff, you could have it if you factored it all in, right?
That was important to me, too, because I've tinkered with the low carb and the, Mediterranean and all of the things that sometimes take certain things away. Like, you cannot have this.
Right.
And when you tell me I cannot have it, I want it.
That's so human.
Yes,
that's how we all are.
And I needed to be able to, okay, I can have this occasionally, but I need to log it. And, you're given extra points to get you through the week, and you can dip into that. And your exercise counts. I haven't dipped into my exercise points yet. I just log those as activity. But
so it adds it all up for you.
It does. And it's not just calories. They count your fat, your carbohydrates, those types of things. So that's what factors in what your points are worth with Weight Watchers. But that was the app that I chose and the method that I chose. Everybody has different ways.
Right.
But that's what worked for me.
There's different apps out there. Yes, absolutely. And I love that you said that you bought into it.
Right.
And that helped you be accountable.
Yes. Yes. I think for me, yes, because I don't like to spend money. But I was like, okay, I'm committed. I'm doing this.
And so you had your mindset. So really tracking your foods brought awareness to you and what you were actually eating.
Yes.
And we all need that. We all need to know, this is good for the body, this is not so good for the body. I probably don't need so much of that.
Right.
We're going to talk about physical exercise because coming up next is the exercise segment, but we need to take a break. This segment went by so fast.
Oh, it did.
So everyone stay tuned for more Shaped by Faith coming up next. Welcome back to Shaped by Faith, where we shape our bodies and hearts for God's purposes. Well, this is the exercise segment, and Amanda is going to talk about exercise. And Amanda's lost 50 pounds. She's made a lot of different changes in her life, spending that quality time with God, watching what you eat, tracking your calories, and then there's that physical part of exercise, right?
Right.
So I asked her, what exercise would you like to do for the video? And she picks like one of the hardest ones, which I loved. You know, it's a walkout plank.
Right.
And if you do just a few, it's not so bad.
No.
But if you do 50, you're going to feel it. So,
Yes.
yeah. So why is that your favorite exercise?
I love a challenge. I do. And so when you bring it in class or you push our limits a little bit, I may not particularly enjoy it in the moment, but I'm very thankful because I know, okay, I need to push myself harder and I can do this. So, yeah, I really like the challenge of the harder exercises. I should not confess that to you, but
No, I agree. And there's some exercise I'm like, why am I bringing this one? Because I don't like it at all.
Yes.
But we should do things we don't necessarily like to make us stronger. So when it came to your exercise routines, how did you step up?
Well, before I was only attending class maybe 3 times a week.
Which is good.
Right. That's not bad. But for me, I just wanted to make sure I was, all in. So I just upped it and I work out 5 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
So, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday are strength training or step classes. So it's really high aerobic activity. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, we will do Pilates, which I love, the stretch after the harder exercises. But Pilates is challenging too. And sometimes I'll just throw a walk in there, like I increase my step activity. I started wearing a Fitbit. And so I become minorly obsessed with that for a little bit. I was like, okay, I've got to get my steps in. So, yeah.
So you started coming 5 times a week, and 2 of those classes are Pilates, where you're on the mat. But like you said, it's also challenging, but in a different way.
Right.
For the core and the entire body. So you can actually lose weight, not try and work out for hours on end every single day, watch what you eat, and wow. Yeah. I mean, 50 pounds later, here you are.
Yes. I do not weigh weekly. I do want to say that.
That's okay.
Because I get obsessed. And I don't want to be. So I decided, even with Weight Watchers, they recommend weekly weigh-ins. But I decided once a month is good. It's good for me to know once a month, track that, and then just move on. And that's really worked well for me, too.
And like you said, everyone's different.
Right.
So,
absolutely.
Don't compare yourself to what this person over here is doing. Just do what's working for you. And if you're losing the weight and you're weighing in every month, I mean, something's working, right?
Sure. Yeah.
What's your go-to food?
Oh, Greek yogurt is a go-to. Yep. Almonds and a veggie soup. I'll usually make a big batch of a vegetable soup, and that will be my lunch for the week. And I can just dip out of that all week long. Salads. Okay. So, yeah. So just healthy foods. Is there any thing you want to say before you close out, Amanda? Any encouragement you want to give to our listeners out there? No, just if you're a mom or a caregiver, take time to evaluate your self-care and take care of yourself so you can help others. Thank you, Amanda. No problem. Thank you for listening. I'm Theresa Rowe. Everyone have a blessed day. Bye.